This lease sale was fairly interesting insofar as we had so much acreage going to one party. And this is similar to our last North Slope sale where another small company had done the same thing. So it's an indication that, or for me, it tells a story that goes like this. Now there's a lot of acreage that is in private hands. We don't know very much about Great Bear. LLC was the big winner here today. But what has happened in the past in some of these situations is that smaller companies like this can get our acreage into the private sector and begin the negotiations, the trading, the commercial activities in a way to promote our acreage now that they own it. So there is a potential there for these newcomers to come in, test some prospectivity, test some ideas. If they have the wherewithal, they may produce it themselves if they're successful in an exploration program, or they may choose to find new partners, new players, in a sense on behalf of the state, to come in and take over their acreage and do the development for them. That's a pattern that we've seen in other situations.
You mentioned that the room was kind of quiet and tense and people were intently listening. And how did you feel the audience was? I saw a lot of people kind of sitting on the edge of the seat.
Well, that's a good question because
Could you?
from someone who is not familiar with the process or someone who's coming in to watch it without a particular interest in the sale, it might seem very, very tedious and boring. But believe me, when there's that much money on the line, folks are very interested, especially when it's the track that they're bidding on that's being announced. Also, there are several people I could see in the audience that were keeping score, basically, that were tallying the bids as they were coming in. Obviously, that's what the reporters will do, and that's like you, and I'll be speaking to others too before we leave. They usually know before I do what the totals are. Furthermore, since they have the benefit of watching the map, they can see how the land position is forming by different bidding groups. It's difficult for me to see that from where I'm standing.
When you're up there, you're very natural. You enjoy this. Tell me, is there any other better job in the state of Alaska?
Oh, no.
Tell me a little bit about your history. Talk about the excitement of the job that you have. Talk about, I mean, you're a part of economic history. Tell me about your feelings on that.
Well, it's a very nice compliment, but I've worked for the division for several years. I've been there since, I think, 1991 or thereabouts, and worked as the sole economist in the division when I first got there. Over time, that group of commercial folks has grown, and I became the director in 2006. It is the best job in the state of Alaska, I can tell you that. And part of the reason for that, not only is it important and the things we do very meaningful, and I do have a true sense of working for the benefit of Alaskans in terms of bringing in revenues and so forth and making sure their permanent funds are valuable, but it's also the people I get to work with. We have brilliant people here in the state of Alaska working in our division. We have former deputy directors and former AOGCC commissioners. We have heads of sections of the Department of Law that are working in our shop. We have geologists and geophysicists and other geoscientists that have had years and years of experience in industry before they came to work for us. And they've made those choices because not only are they part of a smaller organization, the work is meaningful to them, in addition to in a somewhat different way than it might have been working for a private sector company. So we have folks that are motivated and very smart. And frankly, even working with the industry is a challenge, and it's exciting too, because the companies that work up here can attract the best and brightest. And that's another factor. So we're always working with folks that are thinking ahead, are planning, have a real good sense of their own interests, and that kind of give and take is really, really fun.
economic rumors. I hear that Alaskans want to participate with lease sales. They want to form cooperatives. They want to form groups, individual citizens that live here in Alaska, and they want to start doing lease sales. How do you feel about that?
You know, you've seen here today fairly small organizations participating in a lease sale. The price of entry in an Alaska oil and gas lease is fairly easy. I mean, we charge a minimum bonus bid amount of $10 an acre. So someone can be a part of this business. And in the past, there have been many, many Alaskans that have acquired acreage and parlayed those into something fairly beneficial for themselves. And everyone's welcome. It's the fact that people are coming from the outside maybe represents a greater ability to find capital than perhaps our own Alaskan participants may have.
Can cooperatives participate with the purchase of or participating with the lease sales? Like if it's an individual cooperative, like a small incorporated village in, say, New Hyde Park, New York, and they want to explore the idea of leasing, doing oil and gas lease here in Alaska, is it possible for a small cooperative? Are there any rules against small cooperatives participating?
I can't think of any. Frankly, it's the way the ownership of that cooperative is defined, and what kinds of articles of incorporation or what have you that governs it. I mean, you've seen here today that most of the bidders were LLCs. We've had subsidiaries like ConocoPhillips Alaska Inc. is a subsidiary of ConocoPhillips. And so we go the gamut of fully incorporated, well-integrated companies right down to individuals like Daniel K. Donkel, who bid today on several leases. He's just a person. So organizing around a cooperative or a limited liability corporation or something like that, that's not going to be an issue for us. Basically, I think what people need to keep in mind is that Alaska still remains a remote location to find oil and to produce oil. And so participating here is not for the faint of heart once you've got that lease in hand. But it's certainly possible, and there's no reason why a cooperative, as you say, or someone like that, an organization like that, could not bid.
One other question about the communication aspect. People watch the Iditarod, they watch the Super Bowl, they watch the end of baseball, Major Baseball. How can more people participate with listening in or watching in on this? Is it possible that in the future you may be able to make this a broadcast, sort of an internet-based?
Over the years, it used to be that there was nothing more than a paper map on the wall, and now we have a fairly interactive map that illustrates to the folks here sitting in the audience just how quickly, or can see right away, which tracks are being offered and are being bid on. We're going to see in the future maps with more details on them. We can now provide a recap almost in real time, and the next obvious step is to go to a web-based broadcast of our sales.